On the morning of December 1st, 1948, a man was found dead on Somerton Beach in Adelaide. No identification, no cause of death, no record of his existence anywhere on Earth. In the lining of his trousers, investigators found a scrap of paper torn from a book. 2 words. Tamam Shud. Persian. It means, it is finished. Nobody has ever established who he was. Nobody has ever established how he died. And the woman who almost certainly knew both things told investigators nothing, raised a son she never fully explained, and carried whatever she knew for the rest of her life. This is the Somerton Man, and after 75 years, the archive is still open. Shortly after 6:30 in the morning, 2 men on a morning walk found a body propped up against the seawall at Somerton Beach, 11 kilometres southwest of Adelaide. He was lying back, head resting against the stone, feet crossed. A half-smoked cigarette resting on his collar as though it had simply fallen from his mouth mid-breath. He had been seen the previous evening. A couple walking at around 7 noticed him extend his right arm to its full length, then let it simply fall limply back. Another couple watched from the top of the seawall steps for half an hour. He did not move. He did not react to the mosquitoes. They assumed he was drunk and they left. By the time police arrived the following morning, the man had been dead for several hours. Estimated time of death, approximately 2 in the morning. He was in his mid to late 40s, 5'11", grey-blue eyes, fair hair going grey at the temples. Well built, broad shoulders, narrow waist, clean shaven, dressed in a white shirt, a red, white and blue tie, brown trousers, and a double-breasted jacket that at least one tailor would later note appeared to be of American cut. His shoes were polished. He had no wallet, no identification of any kind, and every single label had been cut from his clothing. Not worn off, not faded. Cut, cleanly, all of them, with one exception that will not resolve anything. The autopsy was conducted the following day. His pupils were contracted, unusually small. A trail of dried spittle ran down the side of his face. His spleen was 3 times its normal size. The liver heavily congested. The stomach contained blood mixed with the remnants of his last meal, a pasty eaten 3 to 4 hours before his death. The pathologist, Dr. John Dwyer, found no identifiable cause of death, no poison, not one trace of any known substance. Dwyer testified at the subsequent inquest that he was convinced the death was not natural, that he suspected a barbiturate or a soluble hypnotic, the kind of compound that includes unconsciousness, slows cardiac function, and then leaves the body, something that would look from a distance like sleep. The chemistry said nothing. The coroner, Thomas Erskine Cleland, concluded that death was not natural, that it was probably caused by poison, and that it almost certainly was not accidental. He could not determine whether the poison was administered by the deceased or by someone else. The inquest returned no identity and no cause of death. The body was embalmed and held. In June of 1949, after no one claimed him, he was buried at West Terrace Cemetery. The South Australian Grandstand Bookmakers Association paid for the service, and it was kept small. The headstone read, "The Unknown Man." He was not yet identified. He would not be, officially, for another 74 years. Even now, the state coroner has not confirmed it. A railway ticket, second class and unused, from Adelaide to Henley Beach, a bus ticket, a pack of American-made juicy fruit gum, a box of Bryant and May matches, British, a narrow aluminium comb, also of American manufacture, and an Army Club cigarette packet, which contained 7 cigarettes of a different brand entirely. Cancetus, a more expensive English import. He had transferred them deliberately from one packet into another. 6 weeks after the body was found, January 14th of 1949, staff at Adelaide Railway Station located an unclaimed suitcase. It had been checked into the left luggage cloakroom on the 13th of November, the day before the body appeared on the beach. Its label had been removed. Inside, a red checked dressing gown and red felt slippers, size 7, 4 pairs of underpants, pajamas, shaving items, a light brown pair of trousers with fine beach sand in the cuffs, also an electrician's screwdriver, a table knife that had been cut down and resharpened into a short pointed instrument, a pair of scissors with sharpened points, and a small square of zinc. fashioned as a blade sheath and a stenciling brush, the kind used by third officers on merchant ships to mark cargo. The clothes in the suitcase had also had their labels removed, except that several items bore a name. On a tie, T. Keane. On a laundry bag, Keane. On a singlet, slightly different, Keane. Police investigated every variation and found no T. Keane, no Keane, no Keane who fit. One further item, a card of Barber brand waxed thread, orange, of a type not commercially available in Australia at the time. The same thread had been used to repair the pocket of the trousers the dead man was wearing on the beach. He had packed his own thread. He had used it. He had left the suitcase at the station before going to the beach. The initial search of his clothing on December 1st found nothing unusual. It was not until April of 1949, 4 months later, that a detective conducting a second, more thorough examination found something that had been overlooked. In the fob pocket of the dead man's trousers, a small secondary pocket sewn inside the main pocket, barely large enough to insert a finger, there was a tightly rolled scrap of paper. On it, printed in small type, 2 words. Tamam Shud. Persian. From the Rubaiyat of Omar Khayyam, the 12th century collection, translated into English by Edward Fitzgerald in the 19th century. The phrase appears at the very end. It is ended. It is finished. The paper had been torn from a book. Police released the information publicly, asking if anyone had a copy of the Rubaiyat missing its final page. A man came forward. His name has never been publicly released. In case documents, he is referred to by alias, who said that in late November 1948, around the time of a large air display near Glenelg, he had found a copy of the Rubaiyat on the back seat floor of his car, parked, unlocked. He had assumed it was his brother-in-law's and put it in the glove compartment. Forensic comparison confirmed it. The torn edge of the scrap found in the fob pocket matched the tear on the final page of this book. Under ultraviolet light, investigators found indentations on the back cover. Someone had written on a page that had since been removed. The pressure had left faint impressions. 2 things, a telephone number and 5 lines of capital letters. 4 lines and 1 line struck through. No spaces, no punctuation. South Australian police sent the message to Australian Naval Intelligence. Naval Intelligence could not decipher it. Cryptographer James Galogly later analysed it and concluded the letters might be initials of words in some other text. In 2014, computational linguistics found no match across a large survey of English literature and concluded the original text, if there was one, could likely never be recovered. The code, if it is a code, has never been broken. A 2025 analysis proposed that the 5 lines were railway station abbreviations, a record of the dead man's movements through Adelaide's transit network in his final days, tracing and retracing a route ending approximately 1.5 kilometres from Somerton Beach. The crossed out line on this reading represents a changed plan, not an error. A man revising his route. These are theories. Neither is confirmed. Neither can be confirmed. The telephone number in the book was unlisted. Police traced it to a woman in Mosley Street, Glenelg, approximately 400 metres from where the body was found. She asked for her name to be withheld. In later accounts, she is called Jeston, the name she had signed in a copy of the Rubaiyat she had given years earlier to someone else. Her full name, Jessica Ellen Harkness, later Thompson, born in Marrickville, Sydney in 1921. When detectives interviewed her, she told them she did not know the dead man. She did not know why her telephone number would be in his book. When she was shown the plaster death cast of his face, her reaction, according to Detective Jerry Feltus, who interviewed her years later, was extreme. She appeared taken aback. She looked away. Then she composed herself and said she did not know him. She did, however, mention the Rubaiyat. She told police she had owned a copy during the war while working at Royal North Shore Hospital in Sydney. In 1945, she had given it to a man named Alfred Boxall, an army lieutenant she had met at the Clifton Gardens Hotel. She had inscribed it with the name Jeston. Police found Boxall in Maroubra. He was alive. He still had the book. The final page was intact. It was not the book from the dead man's pocket. She had given away at least 1 copy of the Rubaiyat. The implication, never confirmed, is that she may have given away others. The record also notes that in late 1948, the year the man died, An unknown man had come to her house looking for her. A neighbour had spoken to him, and he had not left his name. Jessica Thompson died in 2007. Whatever she knew, she did not place it in the record. The Cold War was 10 days old when the body was found. The suit appeared to be American cut. The comb was American. The gum was American. The man's hair was combed from front to back. Uncommon in Australia and Britain in 1948, where the side part was standard. The Rubaiyat of Omar Khayyam appears in at least one documented Civil War cipher system, used as the basis for one-time pad encoding. The indecipherable letters on the back cover, the telephone number of a woman who had also given the same book to a man with a documented connection to Army intelligence, and 60 kilometres to the northeast of Adelaide, the Woomera test range, where Britain was conducting classified rocket and nuclear weapons trials. No intelligence service has ever claimed him. No document has surfaced placing him in any network. The second theory assembles from different materials. A man in his early 40s with a wife in Melbourne who eventually filed for divorce on grounds of desertion, 3 years after his death, not knowing he was dead when she filed. A man who wrote his own poetry, mostly on the subject of death, which she later described as his greatest desire. A man last seen in any official record in April of 1947, 16 months before he appeared on the beach, during which time no missing persons report was ever filed. He came to Adelaide. He came to the same suburb where a woman he had apparently known was living. A woman who, shown his face, looked away. Whether the poison was administered by another or by the man himself, the chemistry did not say in 1948, and still does not say. In July of 2022, Professor Derek Abbott of the University of Adelaide and American forensic genealogist Colleen Fitzpatrick announced an identification. When the plaster death cast was made in 1948, several hairs had become embedded in the plaster. Those hairs sat in a police museum for over 50 years. Abbott was given access in 2011, and in 2018, the Australian Centre for Ancient DNA recovered the full mitochondrial genome, placing the man in haplogroup H4A1A1A, present in roughly 1% of Europeans. In 2022, autosomal DNA from the hairs was uploaded to the genealogical database GED Match. A distant cousin match was found. Abbott and Fitzpatrick built a family tree of approximately 4,000 people and searched for men born in Victoria between 1898 and 1908 with no documented death. An identification was proposed, though not officially confirmed by police. Carl Webb, known as Charles, born the 16th of November 1905 in Footscray, Melbourne, the youngest of 6 children. His family owned a bakery that failed during the Depression. He trained as an electrical engineer and instrument maker. He played club football, which would explain the unusual calf muscle development noted at autopsy. He wrote poetry. He bet on horses. He married Dorothy Jean Robertson in October of 1941. She was 21, he was 35. She was a pharmacist and a foot specialist. The marriage was, by her account, unhappy. He was moody, often absent. She filed for divorce in 1951 on the grounds of desertion. She did not know he was dead. His last recorded appearance in any document, April 1947, 16 months before the beach. Abbott and Fitzpatrick found one additional detail. Webb's sister Frida had married a man named Thomas Keane, the name found on several items in the suitcase. Not a stranger's name, his brother-in-law's name. His brother-in-law who had a documented connection to the United States, coins, a map of Chicago likely from aircrew training in Canada during the war, which may explain the American cut suit, the American comb, the American gum. In November 2022, a photograph was found in a Webb family album. Carl Webb in the 1920s standing with others. His face. South Australia Police acknowledged the finding. They described themselves as cautiously optimistic. They have not formally confirmed the identification. The state coroner has not returned a verdict. An exhumation was conducted in May of 2021, specifically to extract DNA from the remains. The results of that test have not been publicly disclosed. The grave is in plot P3-12106. The suitcase, which sat in police storage for decades, was destroyed in 1986, declared no longer required. The code in the back of the book has never been broken. The cause of death has never been established. The coroner's file has never been formally closed. His wife, who did not know he was dead, eventually moved to Butte, a small town 90 miles from Adelaide, the city where his body was found. The woman whose phone number was in his book looked at his face, then looked away. If she knew who he was, if she knew what happened, she never placed it anywhere the record could retrieve it. The suitcase is gone. The cigarettes are gone. The thread that matched exactly the repair on his pocket, gone. What remains is a name that has not been legally confirmed, a cause of death that has never been determined, a sequence of letters that has defeated every person who has attempted to read it, and a grave in Adelaide with a headstone that, as of the time this record is compiled, still reads, "The Unknown Man."